Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Plan Commission meeting for April 5th. And before we begin, I just want to mention that Monday night at the board meeting, one of our illustrious commissioners, Jeff Berman, was awarded the Humanitarian Award, he and his wife. So, little congratulations. So we have a celebrity among us. Okay.
Autographs later.
He's the autographs later. He's got a table out there, so all set up. Exactly. First thing we begin with is the approval of the minutes. Do I have a first, second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Minutes have been approved. Okay. Steve, what do we have?
Well, the petitioners aren't here for the first set of cases. and-
But you want to move this one along first?
Well, let's do case 8 first.
Okay. We're going to take cases out of order here. We're case 2018-08P, special use permit 7855 Grosse Point Road, Unit G5. Owner wishes to apply for a special use permit for automobile rental. Is petitioner here, please?
The petitioner is here. Commissioners did not get a report on this case, but they want, oh, you did get a report?
No,
No, you
no
didn't,
report.
correct. Because they're going to request a continuation, so we just need to make sure that their notice is okay.
Okay,
And then they were going to formally request a continuation
okay.
to the next
Well,
meeting.
for the record then, is there notice in order?
Their notice is proper and correct.
Okay. All right, so then they'll work with you as far as getting a hearing date. Okay.
Well, we need to set the date, so let's
Yeah.
just set it for the next meeting. so
That'll be
that-
April 19th?
April 19th.
That way
Okay.
notice is constructive.
Yeah,
Do we have to vote on the continuance?
yeah,
No,
I don't know.
no, I don't think we have, no, we don't have to. It's a request by the petitioner. Okay, so we'll see you April 19th. Okay,
And are
Thank
you
you.
representing the petitioner for? Okay, they're here.
okay.
So I will let them come
All
up
right, well,
for cases 4 through 7.
Okay. Next case is case 2018-04P, zoning chapter amendment, retail streets. The Skokie Village Manager requests a review and possible modifications of the zoning chapter of the Village Code regarding retail street designations in the mixed-use zoning district. Steve? Where's Peter?
Actually, why don't they present their case? Did you say Steve? I'm sorry, I was trying to finish up with the other case.
I'm sorry, did you want to?
So I
I was just going down the agenda here.
Okay, so yeah, let the petitioners.
skipping 4 for 10.
Okay, so we'll move
So
on to
we're doing
2018-05.
04 through,
5.
4 is with it. Oh, it's us specifically. Got it,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, you have to present it. It's your request.
Sorry, multitasking.
I'll just say notice is proper and correct for 4, 5, 6, and 7P as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no notice is required other than the newspaper for
4.
the zoning chapter amendment. 2018-4P is pretty simple. It's just a removal of 3 addresses from the retail street designation, so it's a simple text amendment, and that is needed to move forward on the other 3 cases. Staff gave their rationale in the staff analysis, so I'd like to move that the report be accepted to the record as amended.
Accept it.
All right, that's my whole presentation.
Okay. We need to vote on this. Do we have a motion? Commissioner Mitchell, what's your motion, please? Is the motion to concur? Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Paradise, thank you. Call for vote on case 2018-04P, zoning chapter amendment. Commissioner Mitchell?
Aye.
Commissioner Quaint is absent. Commissioner Scott Berman?
Aye.
Commissioner Velages?
Aye.
Commissioner Paradise?
Aye.
Commissioner Lexpati is absent. Commissioner Scott Berman? Jeff Berman, excuse me.
I'll vote aye. Thank you.
Commissioner Ross Matei?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye.
Award-winning Jeff Berman.
The award-winning Jeff Berman.
Award-winning cousin.
Sorry about that. Yeah, you two look alike is what it is, yeah. Separated at birth, right? Okay, moving along. Case 2018-05P, subdivision request 8122, 8130, and 8142 Lincoln Avenue. And related case 2018-06P, which is the zoning map amendment, also for described streets. And case 2018-07P, site plan approval, also for 8122, 8130, and 8142 Lincoln Avenue. Is the petitioner here?
Yes, for the record, my name is Barry Ash. I'm an attorney representing the petitioner in this matter. And to my right is Zach Joseph, who is the contract purchaser of 2 lots or properties that are owned by the Village of Skokie. And then there's a 3rd lot that is owned by an individual, which Zach Joseph has under contract.
Okay.
So he's under contract on 3
All
of
right,
his.
Counselor, I'm going to combine all these 3 cases
Okay.
into your one presentation. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, unless you have any issues with that. Do you have anybody in your group who will give testimony tonight?
Yes, the developer. who's
Okay,
the-
could I have him raise his right hand, please? Do you affirm that the testimony you give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you? I do. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, you may proceed.
So I would like to have Zach describe the property prior to the development, if you could just describe it. and
If
then-
you would speak up, come up to the microphone, give us your name and address.
Zach Joseph, 410 Woodland Court, Glenview, Illinois.
Thank you.
We have right now, we have 3 parcels that we're trying to combine and to put townhomes on the property, 16 townhomes with 8 townhomes facing Lincoln Avenue, live-in, work, and 8 on Floral, to be similar townhomes, but not a live-in work. And we're trying to get the
And then now we put up.
okay.
But that's not oriented north, right?
This is north.
That's,
I got it.
It
The
won't
other-
fit
the other-
otherwise.
the other one's north, I got it.
North
So-
is to your left.
I got it.
All right, so Zach, if you could just briefly describe what the proposal is,
we're proposing to build 8 lot, as you see, the upper ones, they're Lincoln Avenue, okay, right up there. And they're live-in work, with.
If you need to, there's a laser pointer right there, the little wooden box.
I can be Vanna if you want.
And we're proposing to do 8 on, where is it at?
There we go.
But I can't see it now. Okay. So this is, we're trying to propose these 8 lots, 8 townhomes here, live-in, work on Lincoln Avenue. They're approximately about 3,000 square feet each, with 2-car garage for each unit. And,
those are going to be with the CX zoning then, that portion
Right.
of development, right?
right,
Okay.
and we're proposing 8 townhomes down here on Floral. Same thing with a 2-car garage for each unit. And the entry will be off of the side of the alley right here, coming in behind, entering for each garage.
Okay, just for clarification, our cases tonight only concern the 8 units on Lincoln Avenue.
All
No,
of the
it's
entire
not
sub.
units. But for the rezoning, we are rezoning the along Floral Avenue is
Yeah, so-
being rezoned.
This piece.
I see, okay, so we're,
It's the rezoning.
it's the whole project.
Yeah, it's the whole project, but we separate them to 2 sections to have live-in work. It's from up here, this separating the upper parcel, and the lower parcel right here to be just residential. And we created, to enter this driveway, the garages here. We want through the alley right here to go in, so they have better access to these townhomes, instead of having curve cuts on each one, on each townhome from the front, from the streets. That will kind of affect the street and the parking. And so we came up with the design to go from the back and entering each garages from the back here on both sides. We created 8 parking stalls here for additional stalls for guest parking. Working with the staff, they recommended having an ADA parking stall here. We're gonna go down to, we're gonna have 6 and then 1 ADA right here. And again, with the staff recommendation, they recommended to remove the concrete right here to create more grass area and extend this area here as it shows in the green, create more grass area. And we put, instead of having garbage for each one behind each townhome, we try to create one for a garbage truck to come back here facing the alley and to pick up from right there. Then additional items that we try to provide, let's see here. Other sidewalks to access to this parking lot right here from Lincoln Avenue. And we're asking to get this project approved based on what all the requirements that we're asking for variance for the list of variance to make this project to work the way we have it built.
And now we're putting on, Zach, the elevation for those units along Lincoln Avenue.
Can I ask a question about the last one? I'm sorry.
Oh, sure.
I'm just confused, and perhaps it's just artistic liberty, but what's the difference in the coloring between the piece of land between the 2 sets of townhouses?
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Mr. Chairman, may I take the mic?
Yes.
This is actually my graphic. This is the graphic that was attached showing how staff wanted to change the impermeable surface. So the red areas where the existing impermeable surfaces are the ones that were required by shortening the stall depths, which we always do to 16 feet. And the green areas are areas that we were requesting additional pavement be removed. In reality, this is actually a little bit bigger over here, because I forgot to include the front over here. We'll probably cut this back a little bit, but it'll be a net positive from where this is. So I have a revised one, but I forgot to bring
So
it
the
down.
gray field in the back of all the townhouses is permeable surface.
Correct.
That is where the cars drive to get to their driveways.
It is impermeable surface.
It-
You can't,
permeable. It allows for the,
Yes.
I know. That's not impermeable. It allows for water to seep through.
You're correct.
the areas that are in the red and the green are,
Why don't, the gray field is permeable, allows for water to seep through.
no, that is not. That is impermeable surface. That water, will-
That is
that's
blacktop.
concrete, right?
No, you're correct.
I think I'm correct.
Yeah, all this here, it
Yes.
is, you are correct.
Permeable
Yes,
surface,
we are
allowing
doing
for
a
water to seep through.
pavers,
Oh,
correct.
See, I didn't even know that.
Right.
Yes,
So-
it is.
That's all right.
And this is where the Steve is talking about, this grass area will be
Yes.
here. And here,
What about the area that's kind of scrolling in the middle, it's white, besides your park area up there?
this,
Yeah.
it's just, I think they were just highlighting it.
I
They were
think,
changing,
I think it was just so that you were able to see the other lines. They would have,
So is the white field that Jeff just mentioned, is that more permeable surface?
this white here?
Yes.
No, they were just trying to show the line, but I
So that's
actually,
blacktop?
I'm sorry,
Is that blacktop then?
It's
No.
all brick pavers.
it's all brick pavers from
Everything
those,
is permeable.
It is.
Everything allows water to seep through.
Correct.
No blacktop, a very pretty field, I see.
Correct.
And the white bubble is merely for decorative effect in the drawing, but everything is permeable.
Correct.
Everything allows for
Correct.
semi-permeable.
right, the white area, just to show this line here, and they increased, the staff recommended to increase this grass area here, and that's all it is. But it is, like,
So, So one other thing then, and the walkways from Floral to the center and from Lincoln to the center, at one point I heard it was grass, another I thought I heard that it was a sidewalk. Are those going to be grass or are those sidewalks?
I believe the staff recommended to change it to grass here. And if I'm not mistaken, the staff recommended over here too, but Steve can answer that. The sidewalk is over here, there's one here. But Steve can answer that. Depends on the staff. If they wanted a sidewalk, we'll put a sidewalk. But I believe you wanted the grass here too.
No, that's sidewalk.
That's sidewalk.
access the commercial units in the front.
Okay.
So the
this
Lincoln, so the one off of Lincoln is a sidewalk, the one off of Floral is grass, Steve?
That's what we're requesting.
Correct.
Thank you.
I have one more question.
Oh, sure.
Had to do with the toters. So everybody keeps their garbage and recycling toter at their unit, and then on trash day, they wheel it over to the central dump area? Or they walk every day from their unit a half a block to the trash? Where are the toters?
Yeah, what's the
They're right
relationship
here.
with the garbage and the parking? Like where?
Garbage, parking, central trash.
How is that handled
area?
in the unit?
They're gonna walk from their unit to put it in the dumpsters right here.
So it's not gonna stay in the garage?
No,
That guy also,
this guy too.
he has to walk a block, half a block.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a nice walk in the winter sometimes.
Well, do you have any other development experience with this type of development, with this trash issue? That was the one illogic, the permeable surface I loved, but the half a block walk to the garbage can seemed unrealistic to me.
I mean, we're
We're
looking.
giving them a little bite.
Okay, do you have any other development experience with that type of a system?
We never had a problem with somebody, similar to this. We never had a problem with somebody complaining about walking to the dumpster, because they'd rather have it, put it in here instead of putting it in their backyard or in their garage, because in the summer it might smell or anything like that. So we never had a problem with that in the past.
All right.
Everybody felt more comfortable here than putting it. We could have put them right here on each unit. We could have put it next to it, but we didn't think was a good
Okay.
idea.
No, it's aesthetically better this way.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know the practicality of it, but okay. Continue.
Commissioner, I mean, the majority of people that live in multifamily buildings are going to be walking a longer distance to dump their garbage out by the time you walk up and downstairs. And even people in single-family homes, just getting their stuff from the kitchen to the garage is a fairly long distance. So this really isn't that far. We're only talking the whole lot is, I wouldn't be concerned about that.
Okay, all right.
I mean, this is urban living. I would say that most people that live in the city are walking that far to their garbage dumpsters in their alleys, so.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
Related to the capacity for the garbage, I know we're going to talk a lot about garbage here, but we have commercial units, 8 of them. Do we feel, staff feel that we have enough capacity to handle trash for 8 commercial units in addition to 16 residential
It is
units?
these are going to be office units. It's going to be very low garbage.
Okay.
I don't have any issues. And just to kind of tie this up, there's no way to get a garbage truck in and out of this site.
Understood.
So the alternative would have been putting a curb cut on the street so that the truck can loop through, and we decided that this is better and more efficient for the garbage collectors and for everybody. I mean, most people are going to have to drive their cars out of here anyway. If they really want, they could just drive out, and this is what I did. I took my garbage down to my garage with me, and then as I drove out, I put it into the dumpster. So that solves your problem.
So I hate to pick the nit here, but is there going to be, since litter's always my issue, is there going to be separate containers for for recycling as well as landfill?
We would require, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Regular dumpster haulers have multiple, I mean, they have all kinds of different sizes of bins. Yeah.
Probably before the development is finished and CO'd, they'll have to work out with the garbage company how it's actually going to be taken care of, what the capacity is, what size dumpsters, how often it's picked up. Those are the same things they do with commercial uses, and they would do the same for this.
Commissioner Mitchell.
I too have a concern about the garbage issue. Part of it has to do with the fact that I know enterprising people are going to find some way to get the garbage to the dumpster, and that is probably through a cart or some type of a wagon system, you know, to get it there. But it raises the issue of the lid for the dumpster. A lot of the dumpsters that I see have these big metal lids which tend to stay open, or which could stay open and invite vermin. I would wonder how that can be handled.
Many of them now have plastic lids on the top of them. And I think, or I'm assuming the law in Skokie is the same as everywhere else, is that you're not allowed to have your garbage overflowing. Even your personal cans are not supposed to be open. So if trash gets in there faster than it needs to be, they just have an extra pickup every week. This is going to be private hauling, so.
And I just had one point of clarification. The north entry then to the back area is not a curb cut. That's a walk-in entry? That north entry off?
Right here?
Correct.
This is just the backup for the driveway right here.
Oh, so does it, how does it interact, no, how does it interact with the sidewalk to its north?
There is no sidewalk, that's the park.
Oh, the park is directly abutting? And then, is it open? Is it a fence? What?
We like to keep it open.
I would say so too. No, I said, is that a walkable entry?
Yes, it's open.
That's fine,
The
good.
park starts right here and goes to the.
Yeah, for security, I think it is better to not have a fence there. Everybody's security, to have a free flow of people, no traffic. Good.
I agree, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
Any
Is
other
there-
questions on the site plan? We could talk about the elevations briefly.
Sure.
They're not going to vote on the elevation, so you can just do it first.
You could just,
Okay.
yeah.
Appearance commission.
Right, which I know. We did appear before the Appearance Commission, and they did discuss the elevations in detail.
Just for the
So if you
commission.
have any questions, just, this is the elevation along
Lincoln
Floral
or
Avenue.
Floral?
So this is adjacent to the single-family homes across the street.
materials?
Building
It's a
material.
brick and cement board, James Hardy cement board.
The architect for the houses contributed to the design of these. So it's not the same, but they're very compatible. So the design, the materials, things like that are very similar, but a little more brick.
So my question about the elevation, but you'll show us Lincoln in a moment. So this Floral Avenue frontage, the lowest floor in each unit, it's a three-story unit, and the lowest floor is residential. Those are the entry doors to the unit, and that's a den or a living space in those
Right,
windows.
that's a live workspaces, and correct me, on the entry.
So that is not live work on Floral.
No, yeah.
That is a living space on
Right,
Floral.
on
Living
Lincoln
space.
Avenue is
Right,
the.
we're gonna turn that and see that in a moment, I imagine. Okay, just, I was clarifying again that that's the living space only. And this is
And then
the,
this is Lincoln Avenue.
so what's the difference in the elevation? How does the live workspace, which was gonna be my question, differ from the live alone space, the living space alone on the other picture? What's the difference in the first floor elevation?
It's not much difference, but it just the design, the color of the brick, we try to go with retail color, similar to Lincoln Avenue, what's out there. But it's not much difference.
But as Steve said, because of our Skokie experience with the lack of success of live work in retail, but success for office, he didn't say all that. He was saying. No, he doesn't. But we know in Skokie that retail as a live work experience on Lincoln Avenue has not worked as well as has office living. So these are set up in an office format as much as a retail format,
It's just an office format.
not a retail format.
No,
Why don't you show the site plan, the floor plan?
Do you have the floor plans for the office
yeah, here,
Yeah.
okay.
environment?
Just to explain.
Yes.
Commissioner, even on the floral side, there's a den like on the ground floor you'll see, And if somebody wanted to put an office on their floral side, they could do it as a home occupation, as any of the single-family homeowners could put a home occupation in. So they're not very much different, but the townhouses along Lincoln are specifically designed for that purpose and are reserved for that purpose, whereas the ones on Floral are not, they're not specified. So it could be a family room or it could be an office.
So that was my question, Peter.
Yeah.
When you said reserved for, I wanted to make sure that the space, not that the space on Floral could accommodate an office, which anybody's house can, but I wanted to make sure that the space on Lincoln could accommodate living space and that we would permit living in that ground floor space. Well, then aren't we setting ourselves up, Peter and Steve, to fail as we did for many years on Lincoln just north of Oakton, where the spaces were not being used for retail or for office because
They are all being used for
Now.
commercial purposes
Now.
And to make sure that we get the zoning properly in this, because we were not willing to go all townhouses here, just for the townhomes, the units on Lincoln, which are mixed use, they have to have some kind of commercial use. It does not have to be retail. It can be, but it's the full breadth of the things that are allowed in the CX district. The spaces are rather small. They are not necessarily, they're a little bit wider, I think, than the ones that might be on.
Can I interrupt? Let me do this. You want to continue your conversation when the staff gives us a report? I'd like to have petitioner finish the presentation.
Yeah, I know we're all mixed up right now. This is not normal.
Right.
Yeah.
This is, we're kind of out of sequence here.
But we'll wait. I'll
Okay.
wait for the staff.
All right.
All right, so, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think we've given a nice summary of what the proposal is, and we could let staff.
I think you have, yeah, okay, good. So if you'll sit down, we'll have staff come up and, thank you very much. Steve, as I indicated, we're gonna discuss all the cases together.
The three that are left, right.
Yes.
All right, so the first one is a subdivision. This is pretty easy. This is just going to be the division into two lots. There will be another subdivision, which will be a simple sub afterwards, Pete, right, to divide the townhouses out? Once the way it works with any zero lot line buildings, we don't do the subdivision now because we're not exactly sure where the foundations are gonna end up. So it's silly to kind of do a subdivision first and then build something onto a zero lot line. So right now, what we need to do is to divide the lot into lot 1 and lot 2. Lot 1 is the subject of the rezoning. That is the one that will be zoned R4. The houses across the street are zoned R3 on this side, and the houses to the south are zoned CX, and that was part of that plan development, where they could also have additional units upstairs. Basically, the same type of CX. We're retaining the CX on lot 2. That is to make sure that we have continuity in our zoning. We also want to make sure that we do provide the downtown feel for that street. I know that we had, with the exception of the 2 lots to the north of there are commercial uses on the entire extent of that, with the exception of the face of the church. So the houses across the street are in the process of being redeveloped also, so those will be gone, the other side of Lincoln. And that's the part for the zoning map amendment, so it's just to zone lot 1 to R4, so that we transition down from CX to R4 to R3. I'd just like to remind everybody that all the property around here at one time was zoned commercial. It was a very strong desire of staff that the development of the houses at lower density would not drive the future development of the property across the street. I don't know how completely successful we were with that, but this was the compromise position for this particular site. Because technically those houses are the ones that are not, we don't allow single-family homes in a CX district, so, but we did under this plan development with these caveats, so.
Was this the time to ask the staff the question
Let me
about
just-
the mixed-use nature
Let me
of
just,
the
yeah,
parcel
let me
2?
just finish up. We're getting there. So that's the zoning map amendment on the site plan. So, actually, Chairman, I'd like to submit all the reports into the record, please.
Yes.
As I'm going on about this. So this one I'll go through in a little more detail for the people in the audience, and I will go through this. So they've already explained the way this proposal is going to be working. So again, this way is north. This is the alley that's going to be constructed this year for the houses, which are this way. This is the bike shop. This is the park. Okay. So, sorry, these will be mixed-use buildings. These will be townhouses. In order to keep the zoning proper, you will not be allowed to use the studio portion of the units on Lincoln as
Living quarters.
commercial or as residential in any way. We don't want townhouses necessarily totally on the street. The alternative would be to build a taller mixed-use building. We thought that this was a better compromise. There is a need for office space. We do have people that want to move into offices in downtown. We don't allow offices in downtown because retailers want to be next to retailers. Offices need to be up and on the outskirts. That's the way to get the retail synergy that you need. We've stuck to our guns on that, and over time, we've slowly converted our office uses in the core of the downtown to retail users, restaurants, and other retail uses.
Can the owners lease out that space?
Yes.
Okay.
We do have some suggestions, and I'll get to those in a second, on ways to maybe, with the way that those ground floors will be used, is about potentially putting more commercial-like windows on the front facades, ones that you can pop doors into so that they don't have to share a common hallway, things like that, so that they're a little more secure from the residential unit. And we listed those under the Plan Commission, or under the Planning Division comments as some suggestions.
I didn't catch the floor plan, but, so will each retail unit have its own restroom facility?
Yes, there's a bathroom right here. So there's a bathroom and also a potential other wet area, a sink right there, and then the studio is here. Right now, the entrance is off the common hallway. It is possible that we could put a door right here. Also, we were talking to the developer about that, depending on how the person wanted to use it. We want to make sure that at least the ground floor does retain some commercial character, and that also benefits, we don't want to create a dead-end set of uses for the last person on the retail street, which right now, so we want to keep that flow going. So the recommendations that we had to that unit was to raise the ceiling a little bit. It is potentially that we can change the front facade a little bit also to create more of a horizontal element to separate the commercial from the residential in the way it looks to the street. We talked about the potential of different kind of glass in the front, more storefront glass, so that we want these things to be saleable. The point here is, because from a tax standpoint, we get a lot more property taxes from commercial use or mixed use than we do from residential use.
Yes, but, now that's my question, two ways. Number one, in Chicago, revisiting the thousands of properties like this, it has been decided clearly that we should de-emphasize commercial on commercial streets because we don't need as much commercial in the world as there was originally built in the 1920s, and therefore we should no longer talk about the continuous and contiguous flow of commercial. So Chicago is urging developers to not do this. Number two, with our Skokie experience, where it took a very long time to sell the live-work townhouses just to the north of Oakton on Lincoln, and then when they were sold, they weren't exactly working properly.
That was I'm just going to.
It was a
for
mess.
second. Well, that was a demonstration project, and that developer wanted to build residential units.
Yes.
Those units are not wide enough to be saleable. These are significantly wider and have.
All
more
I'm
street
saying
frontage.
is, Chicago's
So I don't want to
experience
use a
with-
bad example of a mixed-use development to stop another future mixed-use
Well,
development.
why would we, if the developer was willing to build all residential and everything to the north of this is residential or office, why not allow the developer to do residential? Why force them into this
We wanted-
commercial model that is being disincentivized in Chicago, a very large city to our south, where they have looked at this picture and said, it doesn't make sense to force people into the artificial construct of a tiny little office.
I don't want to paint that idea over the entire city of Chicago with that brush.
Okay.
That we need to look at things in context-specific locations. In our particular context, we do not allow offices on the ground floor in downtown. There are people that do want offices close to the downtown. And because of that, we need to provide that opportunity for those office spaces, so that we have those office spaces for the accountant and the lawyers, the small lawyer's office and those kind of things, where they don't have to be in a big, multi-story building at 8001, for instance. And there is some demand for that. And there are people that have their own businesses. We have an increase in self-employment, and they might want to also see customers. So, this is the way that we feel at this location, that would be the case. And the alternative would be to build this to the way that the zoning is. We could put a 156-foot building right here. They could put a 45-foot building here by right. So this was staff's position as the way to not have as much there, but still get the property tax revenue that we need and provide the opportunity of new, clean office space for those small business owners who want to provide office services.
So to be honest, to us and to the public, this is not being driven by good planning. It's being driven by our desire for extra tax revenue because
No.
of the commercial nature.
You just, excuse
you-
me,
you
Commissioner,
ju-
you're telling me that that what I just told you is bad planning, and I thought I just gave you a very sound planning reason.
I didn't like the planning reason.
Well, that's fine. You have your right to your opinion, but that doesn't mean that
Okay.
that's bad
So
planning.
so
That means you don't think that that's
putting
good planning.
putting aside my planning comment, let's go to the tax issue. Is the real reason driving this that we in the village are desirous of more tax revenue on this site?
When I look at this, we have tax policies, which we need to make sure that we have a fiduciary duty to provide the proper revenue to the other taxing bodies. And I don't think there's anything wrong with those units that are on Lincoln, that it provides an additional variation of office space, which we don't currently. We have something that's only, 13 feet wide, Pete? Are those bad ones that you keep pointing at?
Yes.
This is not that space.
Commissioner, I think,
Okay.
Commissioner, I think what the staff is driving at is that they've experienced people who desire sites like this, and we don't have anything like this in Skokie. And, and I think this provides for that need. Maybe in Chicago, they don't have a need for that because of.
Well, and it's
just,
scope
you know,
and
it's just-
scale. I'm sorry,
it's just-
Chairman.
You're
It's
right,
just-
it's a scale thing.
I mean, what we're talking about today is the specific location, the specific site.
Well, as the one case indicates, we agree with you that it's not a retail street area anymore, and that we're not looking at these as retail units, we're looking at them as commercial units. Could have a small commercial business, they could have an office in there, but as.
A small workshop, like a woman
Workshop,
that does
yeah,
leather
these-
working, she's a lawyer, she
A lot
likes
of
to do
different
leather
things.
working, she needed a space.
All right, I understand.
Okay.
We're talking about 8 units.
Any other questions?
Commissioner Matei, did you want to say something?
No, I'm good.
Moving on, they had asked for some variances. We were supportive of all the variances except for one, which you don't have the power to approve, so we struck the one about the front yard fences. The rest of them are very consistent with the way that the buildings are sitting on the rest of Floral Avenue. There's no relief that's needed on the Lincoln side. We talked about increasing the permeable surface, the green areas, to reduce the request for impermeable surface. I just learning that those are actual permeable pavers. We don't count that as 100% permeable, so there is some factor in there, but that can support the request for relief. They will be providing full stormwater detention on the site, just like the houses to the south have full stormwater detention also, which will help. They do need to add a bicycle space in the parkway on Lincoln. They do need to add one handicap parking space in the back, so there'll be 7 spaces in the back rather than 6, but one will be handicapped. And the rest, we'll just leave it. The rest are standard conditions. A lot of them there are some things that do need to be in the Town Owners Association, which are also listed in here. You can't
Any
park in front of your
provisions
garage.
for a blade type of sign?
That's a Peter question. Well, the CX side, the Lincoln side will follow the same rules for CX zoning
for signage?
Yeah, they can have a blade sign by code, but then all of them would need to be able to have the same blade sign. They could actually have, signs, because it is CX zoned. The sign package.
I'd
would
like
have
to see a little,
it.
continuity there, some
Right.
kind of a standard, you don't want one guy to have
Sure,
a
no.
16 by 16
That has not been
sign
presented
and-
at this time. They'll probably work that out. That has to be approved by the Appearance Commission anyway, so.
Okay.
Yeah, the code says if you're gonna have blade signs, then everybody has blade signs.
Mhm.
And if you have individual letters, then everybody has that same. So they would have to come up with a sign criteria, and that would be approved by the Appearance Commission. If they wanted something that's not allowed by the Appearance Commission, then would have to come back for relief. So the Appearance Commission would first have to look at it and recommend the aesthetics of it, and then it would come back for approval.
And of course, the window coverage ordinance is in effect on this, also on the street?
That's right.
Window coverage, but not window area, because
Correct.
there will not have a retail street designation for this particular block,
Yeah.
or this portion of the block.
And the Floral Avenue side will be the residential sign requirement, which every residential house can have a little sign. So if somebody did want to have a sign on there, they could have it. But again, probably the Townhouse Association would regulate something like that, because it's sometimes difficult to sell a house which has a sign next to a house that doesn't have a sign. So I'm sure they're going to establish those type of criteria in order to keep it as nice and residential looking as possible.
Okay, very good. Any other questions of staff? Okay, yes?
One question, this is just about parking on Lincoln. That is a public parking street
Yep.
with no metering and.
As of right now, I'm hearing that a lot of employees are parking on that, so we're gonna probably have to address that once the garage gets built across the street, here. But right now, it's an unrestricted parking area. If it becomes too crowded or people are parked there all day, then we'll probably have to talk about putting the same kind of 90-minute or whatever the rule is for downtown. And then Floral also has parking on that side of the street.
But the commercial users of the 8 units on Lincoln Avenue, their patrons are expected to use either the public area on Lincoln or those few spaces in the back through the
Well,
alley.
6 of those spaces are for the residential guests. But yes, they're expected to use the ones in the street, unless there's there's one handicap space in the back.
Okay.
And there's a provision in there about, technically the ones on Lincoln only need 1 1/4 spaces, 1 space and then 1/4 for guests. They can work something out if they have someone else working there other than the person who lives there, that they can park in the garage or something like that. We put a provision in the conditions about that, should they choose to do that. Interestingly, we have a provision that guest spaces need to be open to the public, but we don't have something that says a commercial space has to be open to the public, because we never had a situation like this before, or we rarely do.
I thought I read, and it just seemed bizarre to me, that on the commercial ones on Lincoln, that of the 2 cars in the garage, if they have an employee, it's required that the employee park in the garage.
No, that isn't what it says. It says that they have to, what does it say exactly? Hold on a second. It just says that it has to be made available to the they can't say under no circumstance, but they can work that out with them. The issue is that some of the commercial parking requirement, like if it's a retail user, there's no commercial parking requirement. For offices, there are commercial parking requirements. So we had to accommodate, technically their parking is met, some, not all of the parking is interior at this point.
So if the people living in the residential portion of the structure want both spaces in the garage, they technically can't refuse the employee to park in one of the spaces during the day.
Technically, some of those spaces might be considered required parking, but it's not equal among all of them. So we had to kind of write it a little vaguer than normal. It is most likely that these are going to be owner-occupant situations based off of the way the layout is. It may not be. There's also a public parking lot one block to the south.
What is the square footage of the first floor units on Lincoln?
I think we worked out that they're about 285 feet,
They're under 300 square feet.
slightly.
Now, you're not going to have more than one employee, or they're going to be
Yeah,
on
it's,
top of
it's,
each
they're,
other.
they're gonna be single office and then one customer at a time. I mean, I think the ones, there's like a dental lab, the ones that are on Warren, there's a dental lab, there's a holistic medicine person, there's a shoe, well, no, the shoe person's not there anymore. A travel agency, those kind of users.
Steve, looking through the conditions, I didn't see one about paving the street. I know Zach hasn't heard this, but the Floral house development is required to repave Floral Avenue. However, these townhouses will probably all have have a single water pipe coming to them from Floral. So we don't want the street to be torn up again in order to put in the water services. So the condition should be in here that the townhouses will pay a proportionate share of the repaving of the street.
Okay, you can add,
Actually, so I just wanted to
when
make
it
that
came up,
for the
since
record.
we were all
because-
kind of, just for the board's information, we were all in and out of the office with various illnesses last week. There is something in the code that if you do cut the street, you have to replace it, so I figured in the short term that would cover it, but if you'd want to add that condition about the proportionate share, someone can request that amendment. I forgot to follow up with you on that.
We're going to be working with the staff, the engineer,
Yeah.
might just cut one hole on the floor on one end of the property, the south, because they want it to be, the water to be moved.
Oh, okay,
So we're gonna connect all from inside of the property,
okay, good.
and, you know,
Okay.
so the pipe will move all the way around.
Okay, so whatever you tear up, you would pay your proportionate share of
Right.
that. And
I'm
yes,
pretty
the
sure that's
condition
already in the
is
village code, but that's fine if you wanted to.
for the property owners in the single-family homes, the condition is that they pave the street, fix the curbs, and do the other things necessary. So,
So I have one more question. And that is, would the developers have been happy with all of this being residential? And was it the city, was it the village, we, that imposed commercial on them on Lincoln Avenue? I'll ask them in a second, but I'm asking you as long as you're.
What was originally brought to us, there was under no circumstance any way for it to get built. It couldn't get built under R4, it couldn't get built under CX. So this was the only way that some project similar to this was going to get built.
But we could change the zoning for the Lincoln Avenue frontage.
There's
to
no
be residential.
existing zoning that would have accommodated this development without removing units.
I see. We could not have built
But
16
I
residential
went
units.
through a bazillion iterations of making sure that what we do here is in the best interest of the intent of the zoning, the intent of the comprehensive plan, because it's still in the comprehensive plan this way. And this is the solution that we came up with for this particular development.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
Is there anyone in the audience who has a question or comment?
have the petitioner a chance to rebut.
Oh, I thought we'd bring the,
I think he gets a chance.
okay.
I think he should.
All right, excuse me. At this point, we're going to ask the petitioner to come back and, yes.
Yeah.
Could we ask some questions?
Not at the moment. Just, it'll come your time, but not right now. I was out of sequence. The petitioner will rebut some of the, or answer some of the questions that staff might have raised with the commissioners.
Well, relating to the three matters.
Can you
the
speak right
subdivi-
into the microphone?
I am. Relating to the three matters, the subdivision, the zoning map amendment, and the site plan approval, I know that there are many conditions that have been suggested by staff, and staff has had conversations with the petitioner relating to the conditions, and the petitioner is accepting all of the conditions set forth by staff for the proposal.
Okay.
I don't know if there were any comments that you wanted to address.
No, I'm okay.
Speak into the microphone, please.
No, there was any.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
I have one question for the developers. Are these units financeable? Can anybody get standard bank financing to buy a townhouse with a lower level that is unusable as residential?
Yes, they are, Actually, the bank that is financing this, he's the developer himself. He liked the idea, and he thought it was a great idea to live in, work. A lot of professionals, they don't want to rent an office. Instead of paying another $1,000 for an office, he thought it was, he liked it. Actually flew from San Diego to here
Okay,
to what he's, we think so is my staff, everybody thinks it was a great idea to have something like that.
okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, now at this time, is there anybody in the audience who has a question or comment on this case? Please step forward. Now, before we begin, I just want to let you know that the Plan Commission is an advisory board to the Board of Trustees. The decision we make tonight is not final. This case will go before the board sometime in the future, and they will have the final vote on it. There should be a sign-up list there, if anybody who wishes to be notified when the board meeting will be held. And of course, you will get a copy of this report. Even if you don't speak tonight, if you just want to sign up, that'd be fine. Sir, can I have your name and address?
So my name is Jeff Henderson. I'm one of the residents on the west side of Floral Avenue. My address is 8158 Floral. I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to see the plans and speak tonight. I had a couple of questions based on what I've heard so far, and I'm not sure if I addressed them to you or to
You
the
address
developer.
to the commission.
Fair enough. So I wanted to just clarify, and I think I have it, but that the heights of the mixed zone residences on Lincoln Avenue are the same heights as the townhouses on Floral as well? Will it look consistent basically across the two lots?
They should be, except one's going to be maybe a little higher because the first floor is a little higher on the Lincoln side.
Sure, but not multiple
No,
stories
so-
or anything like that. Wonderful. I'm also wondering, just seeing the garbage solution here, I'm not sure if there are city ordinances with dumpsters of that size, but will there be fencing around that dumpster, or will it just be open air in the lot?
It'll be covered.
Well, it'll be enclosed.
It'll
for
be-
sure.
That is actually the picture of the enclosure.
Yeah,
So the garbage will be inside that. yeah.
Okay, fantastic. I'm also just wanting to make sure that I clarify what constitutes an office, and I guess I'll clarify that a little bit. If someone has a dentist's office, or if there's something that could be generating something like medical waste, is that something that would just go in a dumpster on the street like that,
A
or?
dental lab or a medical facility they have standards for disposing of human waste and of course syringes and things like that. So there's something in place already for that.
Okay, fantastic. I guess an additional question on Floral right now, the the east side of the street, which is the side that these townhomes come up to right now, is the only side that has allowable parking right now? Is the presumption that when these are developed, that parking will be allowable on both sides of the street?
So when the Floral development happened, they were supposed to, and we will be, when the development is done and the construction is done, we will be opening parking on the other side of the street. The curb was actually supposed to be moved further in 1 foot, but that didn't happen because we're still trying to deal with the utilities coming down. It's taken a lot longer with coming in to be inspected. But as part of that, as a matter of fact, the same provision that allows a secondary unit above the garages in your development, that trade-off was adding those parking spaces to the street. So, yes.
Super. And I think the only other question that I had, and I'm not sure if this is one that we have an answer to, given that these are two separate lots, will there be a separate townhome owners association for Lot 1 and Lot 2? Will it be a single entity? And if there are issues that that come up with the residences on Floral, I'm trying to figure out the entity with which we would be dealing.
It's going to be a single association.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir, good evening.
Good evening. He stole all my thunder. My name is Brad Blumenthal. I'm at 8142 Floral Avenue, so again, on the west side of the development there. pretty much everything he said, and I appreciate the committee's attention to things like garbage and paving. That was, taught me a lot. The question is, what is an office? I mean, the idea of a lawyer in leatherworking tickles the imagination, and the fact that medical waste is also taken care of. But what exactly defines an office? Are there any constraints on what's actually going to be there?
Well, there's no no heavy manufacturing. There's not going to be heavy machinery there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
You can answer the question.
Well-
You're a bookstore?
Well, we would allow the
Yeah.
uses that are allowed in the CX district, which is the downtown district.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's not going to be a restaurant, it's not going to be something like that, because you need special requirements for that. But it could be a little dress shop, it could be something, I mean, somebody, a seamstress, or somebody doing something different. The whole variety of things could be in there.
you could have a financial
But there's-
consultant.
There's nothing noxious that.
Sure, I'd love to have an
yeah.
accountant nearby. That would be great.
You could have a palm reader. I mean,
Okay. Thank you.
I think we need a good palm reader. So get up there. Yeah, it is. Yes.
Hello, my name is Larry Binder, 1158 Green Knolls Drive, Buffalo Grove. I'm the owner of Al's Cycle Shop at 8118 Lincoln. That would be just to the south of this proposed development. I have a couple of concerns. I'm an older building amongst a bunch of modern stuff. You guys touched on a lot of my concerns. I'm really concerned about being encapsulated for water drainage. May I use this?
Yes.
You can also point right at it.
Okay.
Here, I can point for you.
Okay.
Are you going to go over what we talked about today?
Yeah, a little
Okay.
bit. So, this is my driveway. It slants back, and when this was all grass and just a few buildings, the ground absorbed all the water. I'm a little concerned about me flooding here right now, because, there's gonna be a building right here and maybe a curb here. So I'm a little concerned, so I don't know if I can get any help with that, or if that.
There's no sewer drain there, or?
There's nothing.
You-
Because
how-
it was all just, grass. And actually, this right here, I had to build, I'm sure some of you are aware, I gave up some property back here in exchange for some property right here. So, this wasn't here just a
Well,
few
it
years
just
ago.
widen your alley is what it did.
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
driveway.
yeah, it gave me a,
Do you know,
right.
do you know what kind of a slope you have in the driveway?
I'm not an engineer, I don't know what degree.
Just to explain, Larry brought this up earlier, and, his driveway is not really paved. It's kind of older, and it's.
It's paved,
Well,
but it is older,
and,
definitely.
Yeah, there's no drainage, there's no storage or anything. Engineering has looked at it and will require the developers to allow a drainage way out of his driveway into their property, which will then drain to the brick sewer and everything that's there. So if there is a drainage problem, it'll be taken care of during that process. And they'll also be looking for possibly putting a pipe through there in case utilities need to be routed around the building to get from the alley to the front of the building. So those two things will be taken care of.
Right.
And I believe the developers have no problems with that type
Okay.
of arrangement.
The other question I have is, this is going to be private contractor snow removal. Where are they going to put the snow? I know they can push it all the way to the park in the north, but I'm already having problems.
We've got this whole landscape area over here, so.
So they can pick it up and put it on there? Because I'm already facing some problems back in here where it's just being piled against my building. I've already had words with those contractors. So that's a concern of mine, because there's, with all these buildings and garages, there's just nowhere to put it in here and here. So I'm hoping that you're correct and they can put it in the center there.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my concerns. I just hope down the road with the commercial office space on Lincoln Avenue, that they just don't become beautiful homes with sublets being rented out, you know, for some extra cash, you know, that's a concern, because it'd be terrible if those were blank or empty. So I hope that the people that are purchasing these are actually buying them for the intended use.
Well, we hope so too.
Yes. All right, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to comment or have a question on these cases? Okay. None. Okay, moving on. On case 2018-05P, I am open for a motion.
Oh, wait, that was this one up here. And this is the changing from CX.
What? The subdivision, right. Subdivision case, okay. Motion to approve. Okay, do we have a second? Commissioner Jeff Berman. Okay,
Yeah, the site plan approval.
call for the vote. Commissioner Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Berman,
With some concern, I still vote aye.
thank you. Commissioner Villagis,
Aye.
Commissioner Paradise,
With some concern and some questions to be still answered, I say aye.
okay. Commissioner Jeff Berman. I vote aye. Commissioner Matei.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Case 2018-06P, zoning chapter amendment. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Okay. Okay, that was Commissioner Paradise and Commissioner Scott Berman. Call for a vote. Commissioner Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Berman,
And I love the project, but for my concern, and I still vote aye.
Commissioner Villagis,
Aye.
Commissioner Paradise,
Aye.
Commissioner Jeff Berman, Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. Case 2018, zoning, the site plan approval. Do I have a motion?
Yes,
And this is with the added condition that they fix the street if they.
that's correct.
Okay. Do I have a second? Second, thank you. Call for the vote. Commissioner Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Villagis,
Aye.
Commissioner Paradise,
Aye.
Commissioner Jeff Berman, Commissioner Matei, and I'll vote aye. Motion passes. Again, these cases still have to go before the Board of Trustees for final approval, and if you've given me your name, your address, you'll be notified when that case goes before them, but you'll also get a copy of this report. Any other business before the commission?
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, good luck to you.
Thank you.
This meeting's adjourned, thank you.